20 plus years, at some point, you realized you were married into crazy.
And that's what our podcast is all about. We offer love, laughter, and a dose of reality as we unpack this crazy thing called marriage.
So sit back, relax, and get your ear hustle on. It's time to start the conversation.
All right, let's go.
Hey, welcome to episode 143 of the Married into Crazy podcast with Snooks and Lovey. I'm Lovey.
I'm Snooks.
And as you know, from time to time, we've been touching bases with all of you regarding our Him and Her Health series. Mm-hmm. So not only do we do interviews with couples to bring you their unique perspective, but we've also been just reaching out into the community and asking people to come on to talk about different aspects of health, whether it be mental, physical, financial, what have you, all the different aspects that really affect relationships. And I have to say, you guys are in for a treat for today because we have someone today that's our sis. It's longtime friend. So forgive us up front because it might sound more like a reunion and a bit of a family reunion and a little bit of a party, but you're invited to something that's kind of behind the scenes. But she brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to the subject matter.
Right.
So today, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to Miss Tammie Denyse, who is the founder, CEO, president, all those things of Carrie's Touch. And we're going to get into exactly what Carrie's Touch is. But first and foremost, how are you doing, sis?
Hey, people. I am wonderful. It's so good to be home.
Yes, you have been missed a lot. So like Lovey said that you all are going to be privy to some behind the scenes stuff. We have a nickname. So Tammie is my big sis. Yeah. And I think, was it Lovey? Did you give us these names?
I think I did.
Okay. He did. Tammie's nickname is Glitz and I'm Glamour. So we've always been the Gigi girls. So, right. And Glitz. The reason why her name is Glitz is because
just look at her.
Yeah. I mean, just head to toe, just like, just dapper all the time. She just come with, I'm like, okay, sis, I see you. So she is Glitz because everything that glitters is gold on her. She's like Midas touch, whatever you touch, girl.
Man, where were you 15 minutes ago when she was trying to get it all together? Okay. Where were you?
You see, we see you now though.
Amen. God is faithful.
Amen. And this relationship, go ahead.
I was going to say, and, giving right back to you. I mean, you are right there with me, baby sis, with the glamour, talking about everything that she is glam diva extraordinaire originator, right? That's all I'm saying. Y'all know her. So you've seen how she gets down. Don't let that t-shirt fool you.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
He make me dress down for the podcast, y'all.
Girl, be you. Put a blazer and your pearls or your bling on and keep pushing.
That's how I'm coming next week. So
that's right. Do it. Do you. Show them how you earn.
Who I really am.
That's right.
Y'all can't tell. This is over 20 plus years of love and fellowship.
Yes.
And so the reason why, when we decided to actually have this series, the Him and Her Health series, the very first person I thought of before the doctors that you've heard, before the psychologists, before the financial experts, the very first person I reached out to, and this is going back almost 2 years when the idea first came to me, was Glitz or Tammie Denyse, because she has a unique story. And it's a unique story within, unfortunately, a macro system, if you will, that's not unique, but it's underserved and underrepresented and under-discussed. And if you would, sis, I'd love for you to kind of tell us what is Carrie's Touch, and more importantly, like, what is your journey that brought you to create Carrie's Touch?
That's what I was going to say. Who is Glitz? So
Right. Well, again, thank you both for inviting me to this show. And I, having my own show, I understand managing your guest and making sure that you're bringing the best and the brightest to your audience so that you can inform them and expand their education and knowledge about whatever the topic is. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And thank you for trusting me to come here today to talk a little bit about my journey and what I do in the world. I'd like to start by saying I get to greet you today by the grace of God as a 16-year breast cancer survivor. And I give those props up front because in our community, the numbers are upside down. Black women die disproportionately at disproportionately higher rates than Caucasian women who are diagnosed more than Black women. We die about 41% higher, and that just hasn't been okay and still isn't okay. So 16 years ago, when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, my oncologist told me that he wasn't sure that I would live to see my the coveted 5-year cancer anniversary. And that wasn't okay. I was 39 years old. I had 3 children. 2 of them were under the age of 18. My boys were in middle school. And here I am with this life-threatening disease with nothing to support me, encourage me, or give me any glimmer of hope that I might survive. So I always start with saying, by the grace of God, a phenomenal medical team and a tribe that is unmatched, I am here today, mighty and strong, 16 years, because I need women and men who will be diagnosed with breast cancer or who are in the throes right now of a breast cancer treatment journey to hear that. Because we don't hear that type of encouragement sometime in medical spaces because they're looking at science, right? And so the other thing that because we are family, y'all don't call me reverend, but I am an ordained clergy person. And as an ordained minister, you get a lot of church folk who say, I'm just going to pray, I'm going to give this to God, I'm not receiving it. Right. And so I also come in that space to tell folk that God created healers, and some folks' calling is in medicine, and some folk calling is in research that helps us to live. Medicine is not new. And so healing is not new. Jesus came, and one of the things that we remember most about Jesus is the miracle of healing. Right. So none of that is new, right? And so when I was going through my journey, my late sister, Lynn Rankin Cochran, and I were looking for resources to give me hope, to help me understand the disease itself, and then to help me understand how I could effectively navigate the medical system and manage my family, who, as a Black woman, we live in a community where there are a lot of myths and there's a lot of fear, and we have misinformation about these things. And so we wanted to provide a resource for the community to be able to tap into for the sole purpose of increasing the number of Black women who survive this disease and who survive it well. So in a nutshell, that's who I am in this space. That's who Carrie's Touch is.
Wow.
I'm like, just keep talking. We don't need to ask you any questions. Let's go. I forgot we was on the interview.
No, this is beautiful. And you said a few things, and I have questions. And so I want this to be very interactive.
Yeah, for sure.
So you said that your oncologist said that you wasn't sure that you were going to make that 5-year, coveted 5-year mark. Why 5 years? Why is 5 years the coveted or threshold or marker?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. That's actually the first time anybody's ever asked me that question. You better go, brother. It's an excellent question because, as you know, science is one thing, right? And so we are where we are in the advancement of medicine because of science. And it depends on the treatment, but science says that a breast cancer survivor, that title doesn't even happen until after 2 years of you completing any type of treatment protocol. So you have women who are diagnosed, say, I was diagnosed on December 16th of 2004. And so science says that, and I went through treatment of from January of 2005, my treatment protocol began in January of 2005, and we didn't end with, we started with surgery, we did chemotherapy, then we did radiation, and then I was on a hormone pill for 5 years. So my active treatment protocol would have started counting the clock in August of 2005, and I would have to wait 2 years to remain cancer-free before I could don the title breast cancer survivor. Right? And so then after that, I had to take another pill. Well, science is always measuring the efficacy of any treatment protocol. And so at that time, it was 5 years beyond diagnosis before you could say that you were free and clear. And that was based on whatever treatment protocol that you were on. So I challenge the psychology behind telling a woman who's walking, talking, living, breathing, moving every single day that she can't identify herself as a survivor for 2 years. The psychology behind that, especially with our women who come to a diagnosis trauma-laden, misinformed, afraid, not trusting the medical professionals anyway. We have a history of medical abuse, right? So we come into the exam room with all of those already on our shoulders. And then you tell us that we can't even say that we are survivors for 2 years. It messes with our psychology, and it tells us that we can't survive this thing. Every single thing that I saw and every single thing that I received from my doctor's office told me I wouldn't make it to that 5 years. But I decided to educate myself and to understand why Black women were not reaching that 5-year mark. And this is all, empirical data. I just started talking to different Black women and so on and so forth to try to understand what was going on. And more importantly, what could I do to increase my chances of seeing my children graduate high school, get married, have their own children, have, experiences with my grandchildren and hopefully my great-grandchildren, right? So then I said, I'm a survivor today because I'm breathing, just for the very simple fact that I'm breathing.
Come on.
And so that is the message that I send to people. I am not defying what science says. I understand why science moves in the way that science moves, but psychologically, we got a lot of women who are physically dead, but mentally, emotionally, physically alive, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually dead. And that decreases our chances of survivorship. Moving forward a little bit, Carrie's Touch launched a research project in partnership with UCLA called Project SOAR, Speaking Our African American Realities. And we held gatherings, which in research language is focus groups, throughout the state of California, talking to Black breast cancer survivors about their experiences and their journeys. Because over the course of the time that we have established Carrie's Touch, I have heard my story and my experiences repeated over and over and over and over and over again. And so if our sole objective is to increase the number of survivors and we believe in science, what do we have to do? We have to partner with science. So that science can have some information about us. Well, what does partnering in science look like? Partnering with science look like in the Black community? We got trust issues. So we can't have a white researcher walking into this group of Black women asking them all these research questions, right, without building trust. Right. So we come in as a trusted source and resource to help build that bridge that creates healthy patient, physician, clinician, researcher, avenues to advance medicine.
So Carrie's Touch basically is like, you're like the medium to build the rapport between the doctors or the science and the community.
Yes, that is one of the ways that we show up.
Okay.
So touch is teaching, outreach, understanding, caring, healing. We do that through advocacy, awareness, education, research, and support.
So with you being a champion for, what I heard was for women, African-American women and men.
Yes.
My ears perked up when you said men.
Yeah.
We're talking about breast cancer.
Yes.
Can you elaborate?
Yes, men get breast cancer too. There's a small percentage of the, tens of thousands of Black people that are diagnosed, well, just people, period, that are diagnosed with breast cancer. And about 2% of the annual diagnoses are men. So, it's about 2%. So it's a little bit less. But anywhere you have tissue in your body, cancer can attach itself and can grow. So women don't get prostate cancer because we don't have a prostate, but men have breast tissue. So you can get breast cancer. Men can get breast cancer. Some of the men that we have served, they've gone through the same channels. Unfortunately, it's harder for men to get somebody to take them seriously. And if you got a lump on your chest, to actually, examine it. And for a man, they have to go through a mammogram. And so with women complain about how uncomfortable a mammogram is because it has to smash tissue, breast tissue. But women have that excess tissue and fat in the breast area that gives them some room. But most men are all muscle. And so trying to do a mammogram on a man is very hard, but it's possible. And it just is it's a difficult process for men, but they go through the same thing: mammogram, ultrasound, needle core biopsy.
Wow. I don't want to deflect from the crux of the conversation, but I remember about 4 or 5 years ago, you had a calendar that Carrie's Touch does to put out for awareness and advocacy.
Yeah.
And so I was looking through the calendar. I was like, this is amazing. This is really cool. And it was showing women as women, the beautiful women that they are that are going through this process.
Right.
And then, I don't know, like right around, I got to like the 6th, 7th month, because I was just amazed. I'm a science geek. I love science. And I'm looking through this. And then all of a sudden I see this dude. And I'm like, why is this guy in here? And I remember that conversation with you. And I was just, probably for a good 2 weeks walking around with my mouth open, like I had no idea.
Right. Yeah. So it was June. We always put the man in June for Father's Day, raise awareness around Father's Day. But yeah, and we want to always make sure that we include men in the conversation. I know we're a breast cancer organization, but we really do try to focus on the entire family nucleus because, in traditional family dynamics, there's a man and there's a woman. And in non-traditional dynamics, it's going to be either 2 women or 2 men. At the end of the day, it's everybody who needs to be informed about breast cancer. And with men, it's a little bit easier to see a lump. All the men that which is a very small number, all the men that we have served, they all have said they felt a lump on their chest. I mean, it was visible because they don't have the tissue for the lump to hide in.
Wow. And so when you're talking about the family unit,
yeah,
talk to us about how, because again, this is Married Into Crazy, right? This is, we serve marriages as well as relationships, people that have significant others or that aspire to be married.
Right.
How does this process going through this? Because you talked about a lot from the diagnosis, from the point of diagnosis, the discovery. I guarantee that there's going to be a portion of denial, like, oh, well, that's not, I didn't feel that lump. Okay, that's just something different. Or it's my lymph node. Oh, I had a cold or whatever.
Yep.
There's all these things you go through. But what kind of toll does it take on the family unit when you start this process?
Oh man, how much time do you have? That's a whole separate element of the diagnosis, because there's two tracks on the diagnosis. When I'm diagnosed, I've got my track, and then I've got my tribe's track. And so my tribe can be inclusive of a significant other. And it expands out beyond that to family, to community, to, church members, to work colleagues, and so on and so forth. But in our community, what happens is most of us don't understand the diagnosis, the disease itself. So if you don't understand the disease, you definitely aren't going to understand the side effects. And so what you hear in our community frequently is, don't take that chemotherapy. Uncle Jojo was diagnosed with so-and-so cancer, and he took that chemotherapy and he was dead in 6 weeks. Or Big Mama had, breast cancer, and she took that chemotherapy, and 90 days later, she was dead. And that might be true, but the elements that people are missing are that Big Mama might have lived 25 years with breast cancer and never told anybody. Uncle Jojo might have had, pancreatic cancer for 5 years and knew that he was having some problems, but never went to the doctor to find out. So by the time we're diagnosed, it's in later stages. We have less treatment options available to us, and the cancer is more aggressive and more detrimental on the family, because now science and medicine is trying to catch up with the disease to eradicate it, or at minimum, slow it down to prolong our life. So you've got the survivor who's going through that journey herself, him or herself. And then you've got the significant other who just wants their loved one to be who they were before the diagnosis. And then there's all of the psychological trauma that's happening within the survivor's head and with the significant other's head. And then if you bring kids into that, depending on what the ages are of the kids, then how do you navigate that as well? One of the things that Carrie's Touch has taken pride in doing that I didn't know to do this, God showed it to me. And God showed me everything with Carrie's Touch, right? One of the things that God showed me to do was to always be in communication with my loved ones. So I say that we have, well, I can't say that yet because I'm working through some things to protect this concept, but I have a concept that you always have to be in contact with, those who are going to participate with you on this journey and in communication. And we as Black women have to have permission to not be all things to all people all the time perfectly and suffer alone in silence.
That's right.
Come on, wait, you need to say that again, because
that's right.
we look, Christ carried the cross.
Yes.
But beyond that, Black women have carried our families.
Come on now, preacher.
For ages.
Come on, Reverend Kason, you better do a thing. No, but I say, what? We have got to dismantle the superwoman syndrome of being all things to all people all the time while suffering. No, all things to all people all the time perfectly. While suffering alone in silence. So, y'all had to invite me back to talk about the Proverbs 31 lady and how in our community, aspiring to be her is killing our women.
Done. Trust me, we're going to schedule that before we're all said and done.
But, because we, this goes all the way back to slavery, where our women had to take care of the masses, family, and children, and they'll still come home and take care of our own with what little we had left to give, because we've given it all out over there. and then try to find an ounce of peace for ourselves at the end of that. And we have never been taught that it's okay to leave the dishes overnight. We've never been taught that it's okay to not have to show up. You know, today I felt like doing all this, but if this was a day that I didn't feel like doing all this, permission granted to not show up this way.
That's right.
And still fully be who I am. And so when you talk about family dynamics, you know, there are these traditional roles that, you know, 2020 showed a very different side of what a traditional family looks like and what those traditional roles look like, right?
That's right. That's right.
Right. And so we have these traditional roles that people try to uphold that are not really helpful to us. And what God wanted was a family system where everybody had their role and everybody fed into the rhythm of making the family work.
Everyone participated.
Everybody participated.
Right.
But patriarchy said that men get this role and women get that role. That's a whole nother conversation, but you want to talk about the impact of a cancer diagnosis on the family unit. And it's not as simple as the woman got breast cancer, the man, you know, is trying to, you know, be the breadwinner and the protector of the family, and the man or significant other, they have their own track because you get to be afraid. You get to be concerned about, how am I going to do my girl's hair? How am I going to do these things that traditionally glamour has done?
Right.
Right? Without missing a beat. And then you put an unrealistic expectation on yourself to be her, to be glamour, instead of just being Ernie and saying, you know what, Rana, the girls, I can't do their hair like you. Who do we have in our network that can?
Right.
And then ask for help and then receive it.
Wow.
That's right.
You know, the asking and receiving is huge. And
huge.
For those of you that are listening right now and you're thinking like, this is some good stuff, but does it pertain to me? It does. And I'm going to tell you how it pertains to you. It pertains to you because it may not be you or your household specifically, your four walls that are going through or dealing with a cancer diagnosis.
Right. You could be the tribe.
You could be the tribe, because I guarantee there's a sister, there's a cousin, there's a friend. And let me tell you how close this is. We talk about 6 degrees of separation. I don't know if Glitz even knows this or remembers this, but my stepbrother is on the board of directors. Derek Winrow is my brother.
What?
Lillian Winrow is our sister.
Know that.
You didn't know?
Did not know that.
And so, and I share these names because this is my family.
Yeah.
Look, when Carrie's Touch was formed, when Glitz was first talking about this, I remember in her living room, you know, just talking about, I got this idea. I feel like God's taking me down a path. And to what it's grown into now, little would she know that the work that she was doing was going to benefit my stepsister that, you know, has had her own diagnosis and her challenges and her battles and her walk and her survivorship when it comes to breast cancer. We've got a young lady, Michaela, that's all the way on the other side of the United States that I'm turning on to Carrie's Touch because she just had a double mastectomy.
Right. Yeah.
Young sister that's going through it. And there's so many people that, and I get back to, how does this affect you? I've lost a cousin as a result of it. There's people that are going to be in your network, in your tribe, whether immediate or indirectly, that gathering this information, gathering this knowledge, you now become a resource for so many people around you.
Right.
That's how it's relevant.
Right. Yeah.
There's so many things that you've said today that I think is so poignant and so eloquent, you know, but I also want to get back to something else. You talked about the myths and the fears. Yeah. So I'm not putting this on Snooks, so I don't want to put that energy out there, but I'll say this. I'm a recently diagnosed within the last year. I have bladder cancer, and I'm going through some stuff. But if I was a male or female coming to you saying, hey, you know what? I heard of you guys. I just got a diagnosis of breast cancer. What do I do?
Right.
What are the first steps? How does somebody
Yeah.
start this process of this journey?
Yeah, yeah. And Ernie, you talk about 6 degrees of separation. I just want to step back for a half a second with you just saying what you said. First of all, kudos for you kudos to you for saying it out loud outside of the privacy of your inner circle. So kudos to you. That takes a lot of courage. And, I teased you for saying, how am I going to find this out? But I get it. I understand it. And I am just grateful that you are choosing to say it out loud. And there is no shade or no shame to anybody who doesn't choose to say it out loud. Let me just say that also. But I don't know if you know or not, but Lynn had bladder cancer.
Really?
The co-founder, she had bladder cancer. And so I'm going to put this out here and it's going to get real close and it's going to get real uncomfortable when you talk about, first steps, what happens after a diagnosis. What I know about bladder cancer is that it is often not caught in early stages. And so when I talked earlier about being diagnosed in later stages and you have fewer treatment options available to you, that was her situation. She delayed treatment. She was diagnosed in late stages, delayed treatment, and then opted for quality of life versus quantity of life. So of her treatments, one of them was an option to not totally remove the cancer from her body, which means it left active cancer in her body that had the opportunity to continue to grow and to spread. So the first thing that you do when you get this diagnosis is really to take a breath. I tell people, okay, it's all big because it's almost like, for those that saw the original version of The Wizard of Oz and when the tornado came and you saw the house flying around and all of the stuff flying around in the tornado, that's what happens to many people when they hear you have cancer, no matter what type of cancer. And you're in this fog and the doctor sounds like the Charlie Brown teacher will want, and the patient checks out. That's the way God designed us, self-preservation. The patient checks out and misses a lot of what happened in that first conversation. So I tell people to take a step back, take a breath, and then start with finding out what resources are available to you and start developing. When I encounter a patient who's newly diagnosed, I ask them, at this point, what do you understand where you are on this journey? And so based on their understanding, we help craft questions that they take back to their doctors. And so, I didn't say this early on, but I'm not a doctor. I've never gone to medical school, but I'm a 16 years cancer survivor. And I've been privileged to help women and men around the world navigate their cancer journeys for the past 14 and a half years. So the information I share is from my personal experience with my own journey or the experiences of working with other patients. So just getting them off that merry-go-round that's out of control, or getting them out of that tornado so they can really see, what's going on, and then formulating questions, finding out where their fears are, dispelling myths that happen. I just had to dispel a myth a few days ago with someone that said, well, I'm scared to have surgery because I heard that if I go have surgery, it's going to open me up to the air and then the cancer is going to spread and I'm going to die. Right? So we got to dispel the myths. But what I always do is because I'm not a licensed medical professional, I am not licensed to give medical advice.
Mhm.
So I tell people, take this information to your doctor and ask your doctor these questions. And when you go into that doctor's office, A, don't go alone. B, don't take the crier in the family. C, take somebody who is going to be strong enough to hear what you're going to miss. And D, ask the physician, can you record the session so that when you go back home and review it, you know that you have all of the information that the doctor is sharing with you. And then after all of that, go get a second opinion.
That's good. That's
good.
How,
you hear that on TV all the time. Get a second opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I didn't get a second. Now I think about it, I didn't get a second opinion.
Mm-hmm.
How valuable? Why?
Yeah.
Why should I get a second opinion?
Well, because many of us don't believe it. We don't believe doctors. We don't trust doctors. We don't trust the science. And many of us need additional proof that this thing is real. I mean, I don't want to divert and go into this dangerous zone of COVID, but just look at COVID. Look at the Black community and look at the amount of mistrust there is around COVID itself, and then around the vaccine. So for us, we need more proof oftentimes. So I'm typically dealing with people who are in disbelief that the diagnosis is real and that they can trust their doctor. So if they get a second opinion, then they are more likely to move forward expeditiously with treatment.
That's nice. No, that's a good point. I think it's based on personality to a certain extent as well. Cause I know with me,
absolutely.
I'm so type A that it's like, you tell me once, good, let's go. Let's get a plan. Let's go. So I'm super aggressive with it. So I almost feel like
you're also, you just admitted that you're a science nerd. So you believe in the science.
True.
Right. So that wasn't a question for you.
Good point.
Yeah. Yeah. Most of us are not science nerds, and most of us don't have that level of trust with science that you walked in the door with. Remember, I talked about what the Black woman walks in the door with, but you can take anybody and put that on. Okay, what does patient A walk in the door with?
That's huge.
That's good.
So talk to me about.
I feel like y'all are in shock over there.
There's a little bit.
I'm not in shock. I'm just like, when you hear something and it's so good and it's like, I want you to just keep talking, but it's like, I know that it's an interview, first of all, but it's one of those things like when you're watching a good movie, you don't ever want it to, I wanted to just keep going. Like when I'm reading my book, I'm like, no, I don't want this. Don't end. Keep going. Because it's so valuable, it's so valuable. And the things that you're saying, like, number one, don't take the crier in the family. I mean, that makes sense in hindsight.
Yeah.
But, I want that one who's going, okay, come with me. And cause I'm going to cry and you probably going to cry and we going to be, I need you to not, I'm gonna need a strong person. And to record the conversation, I never thought about that. Well, I mean, I don't have cancer either, but I would never think, can I record this conversation? And for some people, that's just common sense. But for them, I feel like the majority of people, you wouldn't even think to ask your doctor, can I record the conversation so that I can make an informed decision after the fact?
Ding, ding, ding. You are the winner. You said the magic word. Ultimately, we want patients to make informed decisions. You can make an unpopular decision. My sister made an unpopular decision, but it was an informed decision that she chose. I want this quality of life, knowing that it may shorten her lifespan. That was her choice to make. There's nothing wrong with her choice because she made it out of understanding the science, knowing the options and what they all meant for her particularly, and then choosing how she wanted to live out the rest of her life. Not mad at it. Didn't like it.
Right.
But I'm not mad at it.
Right.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, that's one of those things that I have to agree with you on. Similar situation with my father recently, where he made a very informed decision regarding getting a double lung transplant. It's not what my sisters and I wanted to hear. We didn't agree with his decision. Particularly, you know, my youngest sister is a doctor, and she was like, she pushed back.
Science of it.
She pushed back. And but at the end of the day, she had to counsel me and the other sister, like, but this is what dad wants. And he understands the decision. It's not, he was very logical about it. He was very methodical about his decision. It was informed, and we have to abide by it.
Absolutely.
And my mom, stepmom, Derek's mother basically said, this is the way it is. Y'all need to just either come with us on it or basically deal with it.
Right.
And you're right. And I think that a lot of us have to make that same thing. And I never thought about recording conversations. Guess what? My next conversation with my urologist on June 3rd will be recorded.
Yeah. Because when you're in the office, it's overwhelming. It's like being thrown in the middle of grease and expected to function fully, not knowing the language, not knowing the culture, not knowing, you know, the government or the systems there, but you're expected to make life-altering decisions on a whim.
Right.
And so I always encourage people, ask your doctor, because in some situations, the cancer has advanced so far that people don't have days to make a decision. You know, that's when you hear about emergency surgeries and such, right? So even in those situations, I encourage the patient to ask the doctor, can I at least go to lunch to decompress, to analyze what you have said, to talk to my family, and I will get back to you in an hour, in 2 hours, by the end of, you know, business days. For situations that are less urgent, I encourage the patient to ask the doctor, when do you need my decision? And the doctor will say, you know, by this date or by that date or by, you know, such and such. And then you have time for yourself just to absorb what you've said, because sometimes the information that you receive is far from what you wanted to hear. And we don't know what to do with it. And as Black folks, we don't let our tears down in the doctor's office. And so what we are then doing, we're no longer present. We are managing our feelings and missing everything that the doctor is saying.
That is so funny, because as you're sitting there and you're talking about it, I was like, we have to be able to operate with logic without emotion.
Yes.
So once that the initial is always emotional, but the being able to go back, okay, let me take a step back. Now I can think logically. Hopefully I'll be able to think logically, you know, without and remove the emotion and then make the informed decision.
Right. And from there, I call that facts, feelings, fears. And you get room to have all of them. And you start separating, what are the facts? What are the feelings associated to the facts? What are the fears associated to the feelings associated to the facts? Right. And in the Christian faith, we're all, you know, what y'all can recite it.
We just go pray.
Right. No, faith with God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of a sound mind, you know. Sound mind, right? Yes. Right. Yes. But you have to understand what that means. God did not give us a spirit of fear, but God gave us feelings. And sometimes we're afraid. God does not want us to make decisions based on fear or in fear. But God says, okay, Jesus was afraid. What do you think the Garden of Gethsemane was about?
Right.
Jesus was afraid. But what was Jesus doing? He was taking a step back, assessing the situation, doing what he needed to do to prepare himself spiritually and emotionally and psychologically to do what was before him.
Right.
Wow. You know, so not operating in a position of fear, but I'm going to ask you.
Looking up, sorry.
Oh, no, you're good.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you.
But I wasn't. Okay.
This is great information for those individuals that have been diagnosed, that are on a journey, or they're preparing, or they're gathering information for those people that they know are on this path. What about the masses that are not sure if they're there? I mean, what about prevention? Is there something we can do for prevention or preparation?
So ultimately, you can't prevent breast cancer or, potentially even other cancers. What you can do is you can prepare your body to help eliminate or eradicate any cancer that might show up. Cancer, we all get cancer cells every single day, but most of our bodies and our systems, we're able to flush it out and it doesn't attach itself to any other cells. I said tissue earlier, cells, any other cells in our body to take root and to grow. Right. So we want to do things that are going to prevent cancer from taking root and growing in our bodies, like watching what we eat. I'm not going to advocate for or against plant-based diets or anything like that. Individuals are different. Our bodies function differently, but being mindful to manage those things that we know, especially as Black folks, we love sugar, we love fried food, we love carbs. I think it's a myth to say that Black folks don't like to exercise, but as a people in general, you got some that love exercise, you got some that not so much, and you got some that do it because it's necessary, right? But making choices that are going to align what you say that you want, that are going to align with your values and going to align with keeping you here as long as you want to. I challenge Christians all the time who say that they want to live and that they have this faith and they believe in God. And then they just want to sit on a log and not do anything or not move forward. And I go, but that goes against what you say. If you say this is what you want, and these are the things that are being presented to you to help you get what you want, and you say, I don't choose to do those things, help me understand the disconnect so I can know best how to serve you.
Right.
Come on.
Right.
And so most folk have to take a step back because they don't hear stuff like that. But I'm about empowering people. I'm not, a pastor out of Virginia says, I'm not trying to get you to think how I think. I'm just trying to get you to think.
That's huge.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is congruency, getting people to stay, congruent with what they say is most important to them. What about vigilance, and taking a look at checking, because you can't discover a lump if you don't check for a lump.
You don't check for a lump. I'm sorry, my seat moved when I chased my charger down. Yeah. So there are definitely some things that we can do, to be proactive for women primarily women age 40 or over should make sure that they're getting annual mammograms. You're going to see a lot of stuff that disputes whether it should be annual or whether it should be every 2 years. And I promote annual along with the American Cancer Society. But the American Cancer Society says age 45, but there are statistics that show that Black women are diagnosed at younger ages and have more aggressive cancers. So I say annually, because if something comes up between, the date of your mammogram in year 2020, and you don't get another mammogram until 22, you're going to be in late stages or later stages. So annual mammograms, still do monthly breast self-exams and learn. There are all kinds of resources that teach you how to do a monthly breast self-exam, and then making sure when you go get your annual checkup to have your physician, the medical professional or medical clinician, to do a clinical breast exam. So that's a trained medical professional that knows how to do a breast exam on another person and knows what to look for. And so then that gets a little complicated as well, because you got women that have dense breast. Some people may have heard that, but they have no idea what that means. That means that they have more breast tissue in their breast. And so when you look at a mammogram and the readout, it's Cancer shows up white, but breast tissue also shows up white. So if you imagine you have a whole lot of cotton balls, and then you're looking for a white pin in this cotton ball, like a white pinhead on a straight pin. You're looking for a white pinhead on a straight pin in a sea of cotton balls, right?
It's extremely difficult.
It's extremely difficult. And so that's also why they recommend women age 40 and over, because younger women have more breast tissue. That's why younger women's breasts sit up, they're nice and perky, and they bounce and they stay in place when they run and all of those other things. They can go without bras if they want to. And as we age, that perkiness dissipates and they start to droop a little bit more, and then they start to hang. That is the breast tissue that is turning now to fat in the body and changing the composition of the breast. So with less breast tissue in the breast, it takes out some of those cotton balls and leaves some blank spaces that you actually might be able to see that the pinhead has actually dropped to the bottom of the jar and you can get to it.
That's awesome. No, that's a great explanation.
That is, and I'll share this. That is a great explanation, like Lovey just said, because my last mammogram,
say that again. Your last what?
When I had my last mammogram.
One more time. You had your mammogram.
Yes. You know, they send my doctor. They send you when everything is okay. They send the results in the mail in a letter. But this time they sent that everything looked okay. But then they sent a printout of my breast, and they said about the dense tissue. And I was like, I ain't never had that before, you know? So I started looking it up, like, what does that mean for me, you know? Right. Yeah. So when you said that, I was like, yeah, okay, I know that, you know? Right. But that was, like I said, that was the very first time that I had gotten that type of notice. They're saying the difference about the tissue and how when it gets dense, and like you said about how it's harder to detect if there is breast cancer. But you know, do your own exam, still do that, and just make sure that you keep up on your mammograms. So yeah.
Good, very good. Whomever that was, thank them the next time you see them. That I mean, because that's the way that it should be. It's horrible when I have discussions with folks and they have dense breast, and that's the first time they've heard about it. There's no explanation as to what it is. And more importantly, how does that impact what we're looking for with regard to breast cancer?
Right. Well,
this is beautiful, and I appreciate your time. There's just a few more things I just want to throw out there because I want to be respectful of your time.
I'm yours. Let's go.
Well, and we talk about the vigilance and all that, and I know we're talking specifically about breast cancer, but I do want to throw this out there, an umbrella statement, that as we're aging, as we're advancing through life, there's so many different things. There's, women should have a colonoscopy as well as men. Don't think it's just a man thing.
Right.
There's so mammogram, colonoscopy, getting your blood levels checked, getting your lipid panel checked. There's so many different things that we have access to that needs to be done. So that way we can be vigilant and make those informed decisions as we need to, as they arise.
Right.
And this is something that we can encourage each other to do within our relationships. It's not like, oh, I listened to Married and Crazy podcast, girl. My wife, significant other, you need to go get checked. Well, if you're pointing one finger at that individual, you got at least 3 others pointing back at you.
Right, right.
So we all have to make sure that we're creating this accountability network. Remember, CRAZY stands for compassionate, real, accountable, zealous, and yielding. The accountable part is the A. Yeah. You have to be accountable to each other, not just for the love you want to share and grow, but also for each other's health.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
And Ernie, what I love about that is, like I said, we look at the family nucleus, and it's okay. Hey, I've scheduled my mammogram. When's the last time you scheduled your prostate exam? Right. So that's that mutual accountability, to hold the family together to make sure that the family is as healthy as it can be. And you can still be a fully functioning and fully healthy family with a cancer diagnosis. A cancer diagnosis is not necessarily a death sentence. And the reason I say not necessarily is because early detection saves lives and gives you treatment options. You know, there are things could look very different for many of our women if we didn't function in fear. You know, when you get that diagnosis, by taking that step back, going facts, feelings, fears, right? And then we got to eliminate those fears. We deal with the emotions and we make decisions in the facts.
Come on. You know, it's funny. It's like, it's not funny, but I just had this conversation yesterday with part of my men's accountability group. Mm-hmm. And they're like, you know, brother, you're so strong, you know, going through this, that, and the other. And I was like, I'm not, you know, I'm no stronger than I was the day before. But the thing is, it's just that I'm just on a different path now. It's not that something's changed, but it's just what I got to manage. So you got to get scoped every 3 months. It is what it is. So that's just part of my new algorithm, but I'm going to live it, and I'm going to live it to the fullest.
That's right.
That's right. And go ahead.
No, and I was going to say, and Ernie, my encouragement to you is don't think about death. Death is going to come to all of us at some point. So focusing on death is taking away life every moment that we focus on death.
That's right.
Death is going to come to all of us. That's the only thing in life that we know for certain.
That's going to happen.
Right. It's going to happen. It's true. So I told my kids that. So a year ago when I got the diagnosis, I told them, you know, it's really early stage. Doctor says, if you're going to get a diagnosis, this is the one you want. You know, that, you know, it's stage 0.
That's beautiful language right there. Just so you know, and I don't want to cut, I know I've talked a lot. I don't want to cut you off, but I just want the people to hear certain things that are nuggets. You know, your doctor said, if you're going to get it, this is the one you want. Well, most people say, I don't want to hear that. I don't want none of it, but you got it.
Right.
That's right.
You know, and he said, he's like, if you're going to get, this is the earliest stage that's even detectable. Like we wouldn't even be able to see it. Yeah. This is the earliest we could possibly see it. He's like, so here's what we need to do. And I'm like, so I'm all ears. But I told my kids, so of course, you know, my Ashanti's our empathic one, right? The one that just turned 21. She's like, are you going to die? And I'm like, oh, we're all going to die. Right. I said, from the time you're born, from the moment you are born, you're dying. We're going to go through this growth process, but cells die every single day. We slough off our cells die, our skin cells every single day. Dying is a part of our process.
Yeah.
We just have to recognize what kind of relationship do we want to have with it.
Yeah.
I want to have a positive relationship with it. So
absolutely.
I'm going to manage it as best as I possibly can with God's assistance. So that's what we do. And I believe that talking to professionals like yourself that have built an advocacy network to help women and men navigate this, to get these nuggets that cross barriers. It's not just about breast cancer.
Right.
It's about every form of cancer adversity that you might experience.
Yeah.
It's just that you're speaking a dialect within a language. Spanish is a language, but there's different dialects. The dialect you happen to speak of cancer happens to be breast cancer.
Yeah.
And I think that we're blessed in having you and your expertise and your experience to be able to come on today to share with our group. So how can the people that are listening to you today and every day that they listen and that they're sharing, please share, please make sure you're having your friends and family listen, put it out there. How can they support Carrie's Touch and the work that you're doing?
That's a good question. We always need resources. I have learned to not be afraid to ask people for their dollars if they find value in the work that we do, or, you know, cancer has touched their lives in some way and they want to honor a loved one. We can always use resources, and we put those resources right back into the community. When we have unallocated funds, it gives us privilege to be able to get a $600 electric bill from a survivor who's going through treatment or who's struggling, and us be able to say, hey, you focus on life, we'll pay this bill. You know, so always that. We are accepting volunteers, but our volunteers space is a little tricky right now with us still navigating COVID and with us having an immunocompromised community that we serve. So we are very, very, very cautious because, you know, women and men who are going through chemotherapy, their systems are already weakened, and we don't want to be accountable for delaying their treatment process, or even worse, extending the stress and the strain on their bodies that they're already enduring. We are, though, in the midst of training volunteers to help us as we are preparing for breast cancer awareness season. We call it a season. It's not just a month because cancer happens every single day, but the season that we focus on, you know, begins in September and runs through the middle of November. So they can reach us at our website at www.carriestouch.org. And on there, there's a contact us form, and they can send in their information and says, hey, I'd like to be trained to be a volunteer for Carrie's Touch. And spread the word. Early detection saves lives. If you heard something in this podcast that resonated with you, share it with your loved ones. If you know somebody who's battling cancer, and listen, I get a lot of flack because I talk about Black women and Black folks. Okay, so we do not discriminate. Cancer doesn't discriminate, neither do we. But our target audience, because of the disproportionately high mortality rates, is Black women diagnosed with breast cancer.
And I think that's something that people need to recognize, that, you know, when you have an underserved community, when you're serving them, you can't chastise those individuals because they're helping the people that need the most help.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, so that's almost as if, and I'm just bear with me because I'm about to get on my soapbox. That's like saying, okay, there's a ship going down and the ship is sinking and there are people that are actually jumping in the water. Not everybody knows how to swim. That's like saying, okay, we're going to help those people that don't know how to swim, as opposed to those people that are doggy paddling or that are swimming, you know, fluently and efficiently through what they're doing. It's like, oh, I can't believe you're helping just those individuals that are just flailing in the water.
Right.
Well, they don't know how to swim. They're having difficulty. They're having challenges. They're disproportionately sinking to the bottom of the ocean. So we're going to save those individuals first. Not that we won't come back, and not that our resources can't help those other individuals, but they don't need as much help based on the numbers.
You did it well. You did it well.
So
you said you did it well.
Let that sink in, folks, before you start pointing fingers.
Because you know, being a pastor, being a clergy person, man, people come for me. And I say, you know, so what is it that you have need of? And some people will say, well, you know, I'm married to a white woman and she needs a mammogram. She can get one. Oh, okay. You know, most folk, sadly, well, I don't have need of anything. I just don't think it's right. Click, do.
There's no time to waste energy in that particular space. Some people are looking for an argument, and I have to believe that you don't have to participate in every fight that you're invited to.
Right.
I want to ask a question. So when you say trained to volunteer, what is that?
Yeah, like with any other company, you don't go into a company and then they send you out into the field without understanding the company code, the company core values, how to navigate talking, because, you know, sometimes when I'm working in academia, because I love it so much, Ernie, I'm a research nerd as well. So when I'm working in that space, I'm like, dang, I want to be in academia. But what I have learned about my calling is that God has called me to be that liaison between the community and the academy so that both sides of the coin can hear what needs to be said. And so what we have language in Carrie's Touch that we want to make sure that women are able to hear what we say, because when we start using medical terms and, you know, large words, and we treat it like the newspaper. They say, write the newspaper to, you know, the 8th grade level so that anybody that picks it up can read it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we do, because we have women on the spectrum. But when you're in trauma and when you're in crisis, all of the degrees and all of that knowledge goes by the wayside, and you just want to hear how you're going to live. And so we make it plain for women that we want you to be able to live your best life with, you know, what we're working with.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
And there's a form for that on carriestouch.com, you say?
carriestouch.org.
.org.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a contact, and you just say, you know, I want to volunteer. And our next volunteer training is scheduled for June 26th from 9 till noon. It's 3 hours, but it doesn't feel like 3 hours. And our last training, I honestly had to tell the ladies, okay, I'm going to go. Y'all can stay on, but I'm going to go.
Nice.
So, you know, it's interactive, it's engaging, it's empowering, it's educational, and it's helping to prepare. Right now, we only have women, but men are invited as well. Prepare women to serve, because what happens is, you know, with what we do, when we're out in the community, it is inevitable that you're going to encounter a breast cancer survivor who's going to unload their story on you. And you need to know what to do with that, whether you've been diagnosed with cancer or not. And if you have been diagnosed with cancer, you need to know how to manage your own feelings and emotions so that you can be present and available to help them navigate theirs.
Got it. Okay.
Is this all in person or is it virtual as well? Because I
Right
imagine
now,
that
everything is virtual. We are still 100% virtual. Yeah.
And so your volunteers can be not just locally based, but your volunteers could be nationwide.
Oh, yeah. We don't, first of all, most of Carrie's Touch team is on the East Coast.
Oh, okay.
The people that help, you know, our beautiful website, all of our social media, all of that, those teams are on the East Coast.
Nice.
So we had volunteers at the last training who were not Sacramento based.
Fantastic. And the last thing I want to bring up is,
well, first, is there an age limit for the volunteers? Like, how young do you have to be?
We say 21.
21. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you know, and with that, we have worked with high schoolers, you know, when they have to do community service,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that's a whole different track. But when what we're talking about in this line of volunteerism, we want to make sure that folks are 21.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that just recently we just passed up the big day of giving,
Mm-hmm.
but I also know that in October when is a big month as well, not just because of breast cancer awareness, but also you have there's a huge network, and United Way. Mm-hmm. Right around October is when people are able to actually give as well. Are you part of that network? So if people wanted to create like giving,
yeah, we are part of United Way. Just look us up at Carrie's Touch. I don't know our United Way number off the top of my head, but you can find us. We're in the book.
That's
we're
fantastic.
definitely in the book. One of my favorite donors, she donates through United Way. It just comes out of her check every month. We figured out that she's been donating for the past 4 years. She's a single mom with 2 kids. And she said, I can't do much, but I'll do what I can. And she donates $10 a month. And she's done it every month for the past 4 years. And we say no donation is too small. And of course, no donation is too large. But if we were to be able to get committed donors, right, to donate a minimum of $10 consistently, then all of those $10 add up and help us do the work that we do.
Amen. And there's a corporate match that goes along with that through United Way.
Yeah. Yes.
So let's please consider that. People always think that, I want to help, but I'm so busy. I've got this,
right.
You'll never see it. I won't say you won't miss it, but generally you won't. It's one less latte a month.
That's a happy meal.
Right.
Well, I was going to say, make it manageable. And that's what that's why she's my favorite donor, because it's $10 a month. Ultimately, most people can sacrifice $10. Like you said, it's a latte. It's, you know, we live in a different culture now. We live in a culture where we have a lot of privileges, and that's a privileged life. And making a sacrifice as small as $10, donate $5. Right. You know, a few years ago, that was United Way's campaign. They said, we are asking folks to donate a cup of coffee per pay period.
Come on.
Right. So we're trying to make it manageable. You know, instead of going to McDonald's, I don't eat McDonald's, but instead of going to McDonald's one time, donate that to help men and women diagnosed with cancer.
Amen.
Yeah.
I think we should leave it right there, because that's one of those things where, come on, this is a donation that can help your sister, that can help your auntie, that can help your mom, that can help your wife, your sister, your brother. We've talked about men getting this as well. So it's something as simple as that. And it's something that you would never actually see. You do it once, it's tucked away. It'll happen, $5, $10, whatever it may be. Just look up Carrie's Touch when it comes time for you to actually do your corporate donation through United Way.
Yeah. And we're not mad at folks that have the resources to do the $100. We do have a few of those people, and their sacrifice is equally as great as, you know, the $10. But I think about the Widow's Mite, who, you know, these people gave out of their resources and their excess, but this person gave out of the heart, and it gave all that she had. And so that's one of the reasons that it's so special to me. And we don't beat anybody over the head. We want good seeds. We want good seeds. And if this is not your cause, amen, go find your cause and support that cause.
Nice. Well, like we do at the end of, well, first off, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you. We love you. We miss you.
Likewise.
And we are going to have to get together in person, because we are all vaccinated.
Yes. Yes.
That's a whole other conversation. We might revisit that. This is the part where we do our I can for couples. And so we reach into the can.
I can't.
I know, because of the glare. And this is where we have 40 different affirmations that are in there. And it's something as simple. It's a simple affirmation with the I can statement, where we each pull one to represent one of the people in the relationship, so that you can focus on this for the week. So Tammie, we
pull 3 because I need one, don't I?
Well, you get 2, because we're gonna put one for each of us, and you get to choose which one or both that you want to actually focus on.
Okay, I got it.
So mine says, I can be more affectionate.
Okay. I can listen intently.
Ooh, I need them both.
As I'm being more affectionate, she will listen to me. So there.
I don't know how that worked out, but we're going to let you pray on that and let God deal with you.
Amen. Amen. I need prayer.
Amen.
We always talk about, she's the sanctified one, and I'm the kind of like sometimes saved.
Lord Jesus.
I'm working on it.
It's okay.
Like I tell everybody all the time, I was the 13th apostle. I'm that guy I'm kind of with them, but I'm hanging back just in case something jumps off and I need to fight. And Jesus is like, he's with us, but you know, we send him on errands every now and then.
That is your husband, sister.
Don't tell nobody that.
We love you. Look, we love you. And so right now, be respectful of your time. Until the next time, be blessed.
Bye-bye.
Love you both. Bye-bye.